By the way, also, considering the 30,000 faulty, field drug tests on a yearly basis that lead to a wrongful, drug conviction, while simultaneously want to stigmatize somebody that, you know, defamatorily, somebody was trying to paint the narrative of somebody being in active addiction and legalities, in an attempt to paint a narrative that would provide a opportunity for potential retaliation. Just remember something. If we're talking about the drug war, if we're talking about, looks like it, all that, just remember something. If somebody goes and starts spreading a rumor, be like, yo, I heard this person sells cocaine. Like, spread the word. While somebody else then goes is like, yo, we heard the word and everything. Crime Stoppers, they go ahead and they actually pay on tip lines, go submit it not anonymously, go ahead, shake them down and everything, and ultimately, when it comes down to it, we could even go ahead and get them locked up and everything, you know, like we could go ahead and charge them the money that they would end up having to pay to be able to go get some cocaine, while at the same time giving them goody powder, the headache powder. And ultimately, they don't know the factor that they're not getting the real deal. Well, we'll have the money to actually go turn up. And then somebody going ahead with those faulty field tests ends up, popping a false positive, which now has been found out that the error was on a manufacturing level of the actual test administered to test the subject. Ultimately, remember, assumptions don't lead to convictions. All right? Process of elimination does not go ahead and be able to solve every, dispute. And well, boil it down to its basic argument. All right? Because ultimately, we're trying to be like, I believe it to be true, so it has to be true. Not absolute truth. That's like saying saw powder within general vicinity, you know, substantiates rumors. Not true. That's like saying powdery substance automatically equal cocaine. That's like saying powdery substance guaranteed to be cocaine. There's nothing else it could be. So it couldn't be powdered ibuprofen, you know? It couldn't be that. It couldn't be baby powder. It couldn't be talcum powder. It couldn't be antifungal powder. Having to double, triple, quadruple down so many times because of the factor that you want to try to disregard how much your ignorance was showing and just how much your judgmental demeanor and your refusal to, reverse course when, being substantiated and provably wrong. Even if, to be able to prove it is, there's no way that this isn't the case. It looks like it. It's like, okay, so at this point, you've proven to me that you're good at painting the illusion of impropriety. You know, you say that something is not acceptable. You say there was never a time that something was acceptable, and ultimately just go ahead and view it as, it was the truth then. It'll be the truth now. It's always going to be the truth. It's always going to be the truth part that I have an issue with. You know? Like, for example, before the development of cameras, it was believed that it was always going to be the truth, that the only way to be able to prove your innocence would be to argue until you're blue in the face. The inventions of cameras had determined as the equivalent of one of the biggest gender reveals, in history, that is a lie. If you believed, if you believed absolutely that there was never going to be a way to be able to either prove guilt or prove innocent, and had to stand on the basis of it's your word versus mine. And then when it comes to cameras, you know, people pretty much started using cameras, your version of the truth, my version of the truth. We got the real clip, you know? And then Microsoft made Photoshop. So ultimately, not everything that your eyes have laid eyes on is absolute truth, you know? So, like, for example, if somebody goes ahead and tries claiming because, they wanted to try to take down who they believed was the biggest annoyance in their life, be like, oh, to go ahead and force them to get away, just because we don't like them and we don't want them around, let's go ahead and spread the rumor of them being a pedophile. It's like, okay, so you wanted to set up a Salem witch trial type situation. Cool. All right. So regardless of the millions of fucking times that somebody tells you that they have no palate or sexual appetite or desire for children, you ultimately complain about the factor that when you have tried to weaponize children in an attempt to set up a scenario to try to get your aha gotcha moment, and ultimately you didn't get your aha gotcha moment because the person ended up clarifying, hey, I am a firm believer in informed consent. If you tell me the truth and give the truthful basis of why I should be invested, even on what your fucking opinion is, then I will be open to listening to your, analysis and your interpretation. Just because you perceived ugly equals undesirable because your personal tastes based on superficiality was ugly, therefore, I'm doing you a favor even being around you, that's automatically going to be the universally applied standard. And the reality is, who said that your fucking opinion on that subject is more important than mine? I cannot go ahead and remove your opinion from circulation, but my actions can go ahead and prove you to be the fucking liar you are. You know? So, like, for example, when it comes to discriminating by age, based on, as far as who I engage with sexually, understand the legal standing ends up being the basis for that. If it is legal, I will have a slightly more open mind with the context and nuances absolutely mattering. All right? So, like, for example, if somebody were to go ahead and try to seduce or woo me, that was obviously legal. Obviously, for example, even with there being a power shift in dynamic based on the age difference, say, for example, somebody 10 years or actually, even in the past opinion, 20 years, which I've now gotten to learn that possibly posed some, you know, relevance in my personal direction of what to believe is, you know, I guess, societally viewed. All right? So, me being about to be 35. Now, if somebody, for example, 20 years my senior, were to go ahead and approach me, would they have a shot? Absolutely. All right? Would everyone that fits that description have this, a shot? Not necessarily. Some people have better odds than others. Like, for example, if we have common interests, if we have personality similarities, if we have similar senses of humor, if we have similar senses of morals and ethics, if we have similar perspectives on the implementation of attempting to remove as much hostility as possible during, contentious times, and trying to lighten up the situation while it's escalating far even out of control. The attempt shows the openness and willingness to be able to shift course if being the one in the wrong. All right? Not everything can be universally applied. All right? But ultimately, if the standard of approval and the standard of, being able to have the free will to act and choose the direction and trajectory ends up being what is constitutionally legal now, like current modern day, then understand, ultimately, for me, the choice that I have made in the direction and the trajectory that I'm trying to go is one that adds more room in my life and adds more directions and adds more capability and to be able to roam as vastly as I'd like to. All right? So that being said, if the people that I am disappointing are the people that had wished to restrict my freedom, that wished to limit my ability and capacity to legally exercise my right to form my own opinion and act with regard, with keeping the limitations set, that it needs to do what it can I need to do what I can in the process of exercising that to keep not only public safety, but the personal safety of the people within my general vicinity in mind before going ahead and acting on a action that I would like to act on. Being the metric on if I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. All right, so obviously, I can do whatever I want within limitation. Then you need to fucking respect it if I'm saying my limitation is within the bounds of the rule of law. The rule of law that gets applied needs to go ahead and fit within the metrics that is established of it being allowed to be enforced. Being the Constitution. All right? The same moral code that is required to go ahead and continue residency within the United States of America, then I am fucking doing that. And you may have wanted to make it difficult. You may have been upset with the outcome, But unfortunately, the person that tries to poison the well does not get to complain that the fucking water tastes funny.